Think back real hard. Just tell me what you actually absolutely remember.
My youngest son, Bert, was asleep. Bert was 9 years old. He was a little boy.
Who was the first person you ever seen that morning? Did she say something that you heard?
Dang.
I called our friends that we had had dinner with the night before. And just in Jean Benet's missing, can you come over or help, and then I called another couple close friend of ours, and they came right over.
I received a page to call the night shift patrol supervisor. He told me they'd responded to a reported kidnapping of a 6-year-old girl. I knew initially this was a very rare case. Kidnapping for ransom, we never had a case like this. So I got 2 detectives to respond.
Squad car came, and one officer came in, and I told him, hey, we found this note, our daughter's missing. So, well, you sure she didn't just run away? No, she was 6 years old. It's cold out, it's dark, it's snowing. No, she didn't run away.
The detectives also spoke to Burke Ramsey, and they made arrangements for Burke to go to a friend's house.
We wanted to get Burke out of this chaos. And we said, John Benet's been taken, but we're going to get her back. I was totally focused. What have I got to do to get my daughter back? I could get her back if I kept my wits about me and kept focused.
At that point, the 2 detectives searched the house. Ramsey's house, it's kind of a deceiving house. Outside it doesn't look that big, but when you go in, it's very large inside.
It's a huge house. It's over 6,500 square feet. There are 3 levels, with another level that the Ramseys converted into their master bedroom. John Benet's bedroom was almost on the opposite side of the house, on a lower level. It would have been difficult to hear anything from that location. Then below that is the main living level. Patsy found this ransom note on a circular staircase that was near the kitchen.
Man, that house was big.
There are 3 levels, with another level that the Ramseys converted into their master bedroom. John Benet's bedroom was almost on the opposite side of the house, on a lower level. It would have been difficult to hear anything from that location. Then below that is the main living level. Patsy found this ransom note on a circular staircase that was near the kitchen.
Oh, I forgot I had this. It's a little bit in there.
And then below that, you had the basement area where they basically stored things.
All this trash at the bottom.
And there's an area
My weed bag got a lot of shit in here.
where Bert can get some toys.
Look, I just cleared out my weed bag. Look at all the stuff that was in there.
Officers had searched the house, didn't see any obvious crime scene, didn't find John Benet. I didn't go to the house until later on. I went upstairs, looked at John Benet's bedroom. The bed wasn't made, it had been slept in, obviously.
Yeah,
Shut the door, sealed it, specifically told Mr. Ramsey when he goes in
brand
there.
new.
And I'm thinking this suspect could call at any time.
Wait, what?
It's a huge house. It's over 6,500 square feet. There are 3 levels with another level that the Ramseys converted into their master bedroom. John Benet's bedroom was almost on the opposite side of the house, on a lower level. It would have been difficult to hear anything from that location. Then below that is the main living level. Patsy found this ransom note on a circular staircase that was near the kitchen. And then below that, you had the basement area where they basically stored things. And there's an area referred to as the train room where Bert could get some toys.
Officers had searched the house, didn't see any obvious crime scene, didn't find John Benet. I didn't go to the house until later on. I went upstairs, looked at John Benet's bedroom. The bed wasn't made, it had been slept in, obviously. Shut the door, sealed it, specifically told Mr. Ramsey nobody goes in there. And I'm thinking this suspect could call at any time.
The police prepped me on, okay, when they call, asked to talk to John Benet, and I made arrangements to get the money available.
I just remember feeling just helpless. And because my whole life I try to keep my children safe. And suddenly I didn't know where my child was. And I was just panic stricken.
An officer had collected the actual ransom note. And I asked Mr. Ramsey if he had a sample of his handwriting and a sample of Mrs. Ramsey's handwriting.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Mr. Ramsey handed me 2 notebook pads. He said, this is my wife's, this is my notepad. And so I went to the police department, and we have a forgery detective who was also a handwriting examiner. So I gave him the notepads. I said, look at these, compare it with the ransom note, tell me what you think.
Bob Woodson handed me 2 notebooks, and he said that John Ramsey had provided them to him. In that one notebook contained Patsy's handwriting, and the other notebook contained John's handwriting. I was going through the notebook that contained Patsy's handwriting, and I came across an entire sheet of paper in the notebook, still attached with what appeared to be the initial ransom note. It said Mr. and then like maybe the initial vertical stroke of an R. it could have been like the first draft of what it appeared to me to be the possible ransom note. I was shocked to find that. It appeared that the ransom note was written.
What's good,
from that
chat?
notebook
Dang,
in
did
the
you get your
ransom
haircut
note.
looking fresh, big dog? A few days ago.
Detective Kiskart came in and
What's
showed
up
me
with
that
you, man?
information.
Big Nash.
You could have heard a pin drop. One of the FBI agents in the room, I remember him saying, you always have to look at the family.
Well, actually, I was off that day. The phone rang, and it was one of the individuals from our field office, not an agent, but one of the investigative clerks, just calling to notify me that there had been a kidnapping reported in Boulder. Obviously, one of the first things you want to do is read what the demands of the alleged kidnappers are. First thing that struck me about the note was the length of the note. It was quite unusual to see
Dang.
this magnum opus.
Just got some Popeyes. It's too salty.
Your typical ransom
Dang.
notes are short and to the point. The next thing that really jumps out at you is the $118,000. Really odd
The one he went
number
to.
to ask for. The $118,000 is a low figure, but it's also a very unusual figure because it's just not typical of what you would expect to see. You expect to see $200,000, $300,000, $250,000, $1 million, $500,000, but not $118,000. All of this, really, I mean, in aggregate,
They changed the
sort of
receipt.
indicated to me that
What you mean they changed the
essentially
receipt?
bogus.
They gave you somebody else shit?
It was not truly a kidnapping note.
They wanted extra salt.
Waiting several hours to get a call from the kidnapper was torture. And then 10 o'clock came and went and no call.
Yes, sir.
You're so frustrated because you don't, I mean, you want the whole world to just stop right there so that you can go find this baby.
Mr. Ramsey was nervous, wanted to know what was going on, so the detective was there, said, why don't you just search the house again and see if you find anything unusual.
So my friend and I went downstairs, went to the basement, went into, we call it the train room. The kids had a train set up, electric train set up. And immediately I saw the window, one of the windows was open and broken. And there was a suitcase under the window. And that suitcase shouldn't have been there. It was set there like it was a step, because the window was a fairly high window. You needed a ladder or step stool or something to get up through it. And I told my friends that suitcase shouldn't be there. That's doesn't belong there. It wasn't put there by us. And I said, furthermore, I came through that window myself last summer. I had to break it to get in the house. I lost my key. Nobody was home. I thought we had the glass fixed. Apparently we didn't. But I said the window was wide open, and that looked fishy. The next place we went was another room in the basement. We call it the wine cellar, but there was no wine in it. It was an old coal room. And I immediately heard her body was right there in front of me. her mouth and her hands were tied behind her back, and I immediately pulled the tape off.
Wait, where?
And I tried to untie her hands, but the knot was tied really tight. I couldn't get it undone.
Where you find her at? She was in the suitcase. Wait a minute.
We called it the train room. The kids had a train set up, electric train set up. And immediately I saw the window, one of the windows was open and broken. And there was a suitcase under the window. And that suitcase shouldn't have been there. It was set there like it was a step, because the window was a fairly high window. You needed a ladder or step stool or something to get up through it. And I told my friends that suitcase shouldn't be there. That doesn't belong there. It wasn't put there by us. And I said, furthermore, I came through that window myself last summer. I had to break it to get in the house. I lost my key. Nobody was home. I thought we had the glass fixed. Apparently we didn't. But I said the window was wide open, and that looked fishy. The next place we went was another room in the basement. We called it the wine cellar, but there was no wine in it. It was an old coal room.
Fuck it, I'm gonna go.
And immediately her body was right there in front of me. She had tape over her mouth and her hands were tied behind her back, and I immediately pulled the tape off. The window was wide open, and that looked fishy. The next place we went was another room in the basement. We called it the wine cellar, but there was no wine in it. It was an old coal room. And immediately her body was right there in front of me.
I don't know.
She had tape over her mouth and her hands were tied behind her back, and I immediately pulled the tape off. And I tried to untie her hands, but the knot was tied really tight. I couldn't get it undone.
Damn.
So I just screamed, and I picked her up and carried her upstairs just to try to get her help. The detectives looked for a pulse, looked at me and said, she's dead. I just stared at her. I couldn't comprehend that.
I heard John scream. And I said, what? What is it? And Barbara, my friend, just, grabbed me and said, no, just stay. Just stay right here. And I kept saying, what is it? What is it? And, and I think,
She was gone.
we walked into the living room and she was there, and
Why was this case so big?
John said, she's...
The detectives
Now,
were
you
at
remember
the
John Bonet
Ramsey
Ray?
house called dispatch saying that John Bonet's body had been located.
There was a group of police investigators that had gathered at the Boulder Police Department that morning. When the word came in that John Bonet's body had been found, a person inside that meeting told me that one investigator hissed in kind of an undertone and a whisper to another one, I knew it, they killed their daughter.
Uh-oh.
We were were
knew it.
pretty quickly escorted out of the house. So we went to stay at some friend's house who were there that morning. They took us to their home. And from that point on, I was just, you're in shock.
I thought John knew that they found her. That was me so excited. Honestly, John saw me was sad. And so I told me that John really hadn't. Started coming. So, I filled out the time.
Past Santa Claus and his sleigh and a double row of candy canes, deputy coroners brought the body of 6-year-old John Benet Ramsey from her upscale home.
Upscale.
Mother, Patsy Ramsey dialed 911, telling police her daughter had been kidnapped. But when police got here, they went inside the house, and a short time later, they found the little girl's body.
I was called in on the Ramsey case when I was on vacation, and my news director caught me at home. And she said, you need to get involved in this story like now.
Boulder police won't comment on her cause of death, only saying that she wasn't shot or stabbed.
Any journalist knows the sense of adrenaline that you feel when you're deployed on what already at the outset smells like a big story. I got to the Ramsey home the evening that the crime was reported. There was no communication that evening between law enforcement and the media outside until the time they brought her body, which occurred just minutes really before my final deadline. One of the investigators came out and they gave us a name and an age of the victim. Boom, that was it.
Police have not publicly identified any suspects. Their official line remains that nobody has been ruled in and nobody has been ruled out.
Neighbors described the young girl as beautiful and polite. Her body was in the basement, out of sight, but not really hidden.
Now you're starting to do some research into who are the Ramseys.
Mr. Ramsey is president of
Hello, I'm Patsy Ramsey. Daddy's not here, but this is John Benet. She's 4, Bertram 7, and we'd like to welcome you to our home and wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Yay!
It's really important to remember that prior to Christmas Day of 1996, we were just a regular family.
Oh, that's the son. Okay.
We weren't perfect. We were just a regular family living a regular life.
Y'all wasn't regular. Y'all a big ass house.
When Jean Monnet was born, there were 5 of us.
You don't know that ain't regular.
So I had 2 older sisters.
Most people don't live like that.
My sister Melinda, from my dad's first marriage to my mom. And then Burke and Jean Monnet were born. Burke is 10 years younger than me, and Jean Monnet is, I think, 13 years younger than me. Or, of course, my dad's second marriage to Patsy.
Here come Burke and John Benet. Come flying down the field. Woo! Alright, great shot. Let's do it one more time. Okay, we'll do it one more time. Oh, Dad.
Hey, guys. Did we have fun or did we have fun?
John Benet. Where's Burke? There's Burke. And Melinda.
I met Patsy through some friends. I was divorced, and my downstairs neighbors were friends of Patsy from West Virginia. And she was 23 and I was 35, and she was nice, but I thought, well, that's not dating material. She's too young. But then I got to know her a little bit. She's like, she's pretty smart. She's not a typical 23-year-old.
That's not dating material.
And so
yeah.
I asked her out for a date. We went out and just felt right. Rest was history.
She was mature than all the bitches your age.
I started out, I'm kind of an independent entrepreneur, and started a little manufacturer's rep company where we represented electronic equipment. And we were lucky. We were in the computer industry and it was growing like crazy. We merged with 2 other companies. One was in Boulder. So we said, okay, let's move to Boulder and we'll stay in Colorado for 2 years, so we'll come back to Atlanta. That was the plan. We'd gotten a nice nest egg, but it wasn't hundreds of millions of dollars. It was more money than I ever thought I would ever have. And of course, then that all changed.
John Ramsey's daughter Beth, she was from his first marriage, was killed in a car accident.
When we lost Beth, I obviously was just devastated. She took better care of me than I probably took care of her, and she would always worry about what was Dad going to do on Christmas or Thanksgiving if we weren't together.
JonBenet was a year and a half old when we lost John's daughter, Beth. And even at that age, and I know we've talked about this many times, that we felt like she was a gift given to us to help us through that time. And you think, well, she was only a year and a half old, she couldn't really know what has taken place here. But she would sense our grief and our sadness. And she just had a way of coming up to you and snuggling up. She was just a very sensitive child that way.
Patsy knew for months something was wrong. Her stomach was getting very distended. Her mother took one look at her and said, "We're going to the hospital. Something is wrong." Within 30 minutes, they had taken an x-ray, found a huge tumor in her abdomen area, and it was ovarian cancer. She was a fighter. She wanted to live for her kids.
What was wrong with her stomach?
The children
She had a tumor and it
would
was
come
cancer and shit.
into my hospital room. She would come up and here's the bag hanging there with this blood in it. She'd come up and squish it, and what was this, and where's this going? And she'd follow it up, and it's going in here. It's all right, Mommy, she'd say. It's all right, it won't hurt very long, She was like my little cheerleader.
It was brutal, and the program was very intense, almost kill you chemotherapy. She did that for a year, and they said, "You're cancer-free, you're in remission." And it was, for Patsy, a gift of life again.
This was my reason to live. I had these 2 children, this wonderful husband, and nobody was going to raise these 2 children the way I wanted it done. I'm going to be there.
Anybody who's interested in the Ramsey case needs to read the cause of death in the autopsy report.
Uh-oh.
It's critical.
According to the autopsy,
How she died?
whoever killed JonBenet took white olefin cord, tied her wrists together, took the same cord and made what's commonly known as a garrote or a ligature.
Oh.
That garrote is used not to immediately strangle the victim, but it's more of a controlling mechanism. You can apply pressure to the neck and release it. Apply pressure to the neck and release it.
There
They
was
do
an
that to a little ass
artist-style
girl.
paintbrush that was actually found in Mrs. Ramsey's paint supplies that were kept in the basement. That paintbrush was broken into 3 pieces. The handle of that was taken off and secured at the end of this garrote.
And it was still in?
There was some complexity as to how the garrote was put together. This knot was tied by somebody who understood how a garrote is made.
We believe JonBenet was alive when this was being done because she had hair tangled in this knot. It's consistent with somebody either holding her down or putting their foot to hold her down and tie this knot.
The garrote was left embedded in her throat.
I never saw the garrote. It was so embedded in her throat, I didn't see it.
She also had very distinct red mark below her throat, consistent with her fingerprints, like as she was trying to relieve pressure on the cord that was wrapped around her neck.
This garrote was deep into her neck.
Damn.
That's what everyone, including the police, thought killed her. Well, when they got her to the autopsy table and opened up, her brain, they realized she'd been hit over the head. She was hit in the head with a blow that left an 8-inch crack in her skull.
Damn!
Her skull caved in.
Wait.
Boulder Police Department found 2 items.
Nah, this the daughter. That was the mom. She had cancer, but she got over it. That's the thing that was in her neck.
Below her throat, consistent with her fingerprints, like as she was trying to relieve pressure on the cord that was wrapped around her neck.
This garrote was deep into her neck. That's what everyone, including the police, thought killed her. Well, when they got her to the autopsy table and opened up, her brain, they realized she'd been hit over the head. She was hit in the head with a blow that left an 8-inch crack in her skull. Part of her skull caved in.
Damn. See?
Boulder Police Department. There were also microscopic fibers from the paintbrush handle that were found in her vaginal area, indicating she was sexually assaulted.
Whoa!
With the paintbrush handle.
With that paintbrush, they was sexually assaulted.
Such fury.
That Ramsey girl from the
Anger. She was tortured and she was
I feel
murdered.
like a film did.
Because how the fuck? Okay, it was somebody asking for money, but she was dead in the basement. While they was asking for money, she was dead that whole time in y'all basement? So they was asking for money for a dead girl?
or killed her, they're gonna be in the house to clean their fingerprints to clean that house up.
Mm-hmm. For real.
That just never added up to me, though. With that.
Yeah, that shit don't make sense.
Like,
A ransom note, a dead body, strange twists and turns.
It received national news attention almost right away. One of the biggest driving factors was the sheer number of pictures and videotapes of JonBenet.
She's captivating from the get-go. If you look at the pictures of this little girl, she was star quality.
For TV and tabloids and everybody to tell this story, you need pictures.
And the Ramsey case became immediate fodder because JonBenet Ramsey was in child beauty pageants.
Okay, this is all I used to see. I'm like, what the fuck? Why they keep showing this little ass girl?
ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN for the whole month of January led with the Ramsey case. And the child beauty pageant photographs and video were in them.
Oh, he opening a 20 box.
There was a very professional, almost adult, and frankly somewhat sexual look to them.
The videos that I've seen of JonBenet, it seems she doesn't seem like a child at all. She seems like a tiny woman, and there's something very sort of sexually aware about her.
No, it ain't.
The shots we've seen of this little 6-year-old.
Oh, because she wearing them little bikinis.
Targeted up miniature dwarf hooker.
Oh, they called her a little hooker. Oh, shit. They called her a little hooker. She looked like a little hooker on the news.
Pageant photographs and video were in them.
There was a very professional, almost adult, and frankly somewhat sexual look to them.
The videos that I've seen of JonBenet, it seems she doesn't seem like a child at all. She seems like a tiny woman, and there's something very sort of
his topper
sexually aware about her.
The shots we've seen of this little 6-year-old child are like a little targeted up miniature dwarf hooker.
Look, true. I gotta tell you, like, this crazy. How the fuck you see that sexual of her wearing a bikini? Only people that think that way, because I could see a little girl naked and not think sexual. Like, what the fuck? Why you gotta think sexual about her wearing? Like a nigga seeing a fucking kid in his diaper change. Oh, that's sexual. No, it's not. It's a naked baby, doofus. How the fuck is that sexual? Mason. Oh, Mason trying to say what's up. What's up, Mason? Oh, it looked like he was. Both of these niggas open 20 boxes. Let's see if he get anything. These the niggas that spend money on the game. Cause you can't get these packs without money. I'm opening a base pack. They gonna be mad. I need that XP. I'm on diamond tier. Man.
The Ramseys were very harshly judged as delinquent parents as parents who forced their daughter into these beauty pageants?
It paints a very startling picture of what this girl's lifestyle, what her activities, sanctioned by her parents, were.
She was in beauty pageants. What the fuck?
Let's just talk a little
What
bit
that
about
mean?
the punches. When they saw the actual videos.
Oh, so you saying the nigga that kidnapped her was looking at the pageants like, oh, I want her.
That was a sick mind looking from that vantage point.
Yeah, thank you. From that vantage point, yeah, that's exactly how you said it. That's a sick mind looking at her from that vantage point. That's a sick nigga.
Actual videos that what they saw was a sexualized child. How do you react to that?
That was a sick mind looking.
Mason!
From that vantage point. It was not.
I miss you, homie. What's up? You done got big, start going to school? Your life about to change in a little while. You about to go to another level of life, boy. You about to be a big brother. You gonna be blamed for shit that you didn't do. Why? And your mama gonna do it on accident. Oh, you got a pink gun. Your mama might do it on accident too. Like she might think it's you. Little baby looking innocent as hell.
It was not, cutthroat competition.
But you gotta take those on the chin. You a big brother.
Formed of their little heart's desire.
I had to take a lot of that on the chin. You were supposed to be watching them, even if they did it. What? Nigga Roy almost my age. Oh, he got magic.
It's almost like taking whole movie that you think of your children at the swimming pool, and it ends up on national television as pornographic material.
Yeah. Like the dad said, that's like having a video of your daughter in the swimming pool and somebody use that pornographic shit.
Patsy was in a beauty pageant when she was in college and ran for Miss West Virginia.
They getting good pulls, man.
Time after time, she said, "No, what can I do that?"
I felt that Patsy was probably.
He got two magics? Oh no, that's Reed. My turn.
I didn't know she
Like he
was
did.
16 and 18. She's never said that. I've never said that to her.
Well, John's right. After I had cancer, I thought, well, maybe I may never live to see her do a lot of things.
Come with me to the city where love never sleeps. A place for self-love. The beloved.
Oops.
The in-loved. For timeless bonds, meaningful beginnings, and new heights. Here, love has many facets, all of which are a gift. With love since 1837, Tiffany and Co.
In the days since her murder, no arrests have been made, but people have been talking about the tragedy, who they suspect, how the police should handle the investigation.
The police department started realizing right away that they should have been doing a lot of things differently.
Liquid! I'm on my sixth streak in the park. Okay, Liquid. Big Liquid. Okay, bro. I see you.
Johnson is out there with Tracy McGrady. Then it's Thompson, and it's Sigma in a power.
I'm on a double XP coin. I'm just gonna play this little game, warm-up game, and then I'm gonna play the sweaty team after this.
And it's Thompson into the free Such a wide open look. Sigma's got the first points up on the board for Los Angeles.
Is it fair to question the Boulder Police Department's
Thompson
experience ability to investigate homicides?
I don't think so. Just because you have one homicide in a year, I think this is actually a sign of remarkable strength in our community.
That lack of experience procedurally created a lot of problems
Tracy McGrady on the wing. No good on the triple. Not quite enough.
Quite a bit of information has come out about police investigation in the morning of December 26th. Did police search the house after the 911 call, but before the body was found?
They did a preliminary search of the house, and remember, this is a very big house. Did they look in the room where John Ramsey said the girl's body was, or did they not? It doesn't appear that they got down. That room was down in a part of the basement that it doesn't appear that they got to.
One of the cops did not open the door where John Bonet was lying. Major mistake, and I believe he lives with that to this day.
Another procedure question. Why was the Ramsey house not sealed off as a crime scene until several hours after the kidnapping was reported?
They had called their friends over. So you got a house full of people. People are washing dishes. You got bagels everywhere and orange juice and coffee. The Boulder police didn't consider that a crime scene.
And here's Los Angeles.
I should have removed all those people from the scene. That was a crime scene mistake. But at the time, it looked like a legitimate kidnapping, so I thought, well, these are the support systems for the Ramseys, and I let them stay.
And why didn't police discover 6-year-old John Bonet's body instead of her father, since they were in the house several hours before she was found?
Never have somebody outside of law enforcement doing a search. The role of law enforcement is to gather the facts.
John Ramsey found his daughter's body in the basement and carried it upstairs, effectively destroying the crime scene.
Oh!
When Mr. Ramsey discovered her body, pulled the duct tape off of her mouth, threw it down on the blanket that was there. There may have been some evidence on the duct tape if that wasn't removed.
Concerned now at all that some evidence, crucial evidence that could link, establish pretty firmly in court who the killer was, might have been lost in those first initial minutes of discovery or not? That can be speculated on, but all indications are that we did not win.
Police attention on the Ramseys as suspects, I know, began on day one. And it began based on a variety of different things. And many of these things we wouldn't learn about for some time.
I know who killed John Bonet. There's no doubt in my mind who killed John Bonet. When the Boulder detective Linda Art did her first interview on television, she said that she felt she was face to face with the killer. His face was and we had a nonverbal exchange that I'll never forget.
We didn't act right in the eyes of this so-called detective that was there that day.
How did he strike you? Cordial. Distraught? Cordial.
A classic one was John was casually going through the mail, not acting right.
I remember seeing John in the kitchen, looking through his mail, and I made a note.
I was looking for another communication from the kidnapper. Mail had come through our mail slot on the door, front door, and there's a pile of letters lying there. I was looking for, is there another communication? She interpreted that as, he's just casually looking through the mail, therefore he's guilty.
Linda Art was the only police officer in the house at the time when they found the body. She told me, she just suggested to John Ramsey, why don't you guys go search the house, just to kind of give him something to do.
This detective, so why don't you and your friend go through the house, if you see anything unusual.
Linda Art told me that John Ramsey went right down into the basement, right to the room where the body was, and found it immediately. And I think that there was a sense that that was just, if you're going to say search the house, that was just an odd first room to go search, and then coincidentally the body is there.
The logical place to start is the basement. That's where the easiest access would be to the house.
She said John Ramsey looked at her, and she said she saw it in his eyes, and she just said the look in his eyes scared her and made her fear for her own safety.
I remember, and I wore a shoulder holster, tucking my gun right next to me, and consciously counting out that 18 bullets, because I didn't know if we'd all be alive when people showed up.
Oh, I saw it in John's eyes. I knew he was the killer. It was crazy. And, but that's how I got started.
I knew what happened.
I don't know if it was that day or the next day, but I got and I wouldn't taking calls, hardly function. But our friends got a call. And they said, look, this is the fellow that works for you. He said he needs to talk to you. So I answered the phone. It was one of our employees. He said, I was told by someone inside the system to get this message to you. They believe you killed your daughter. And you need to get the best defense attorney you can get your hands on. And I was just shocked.
The father, John Ramsey, has hired a well-known criminal lawyer, and a Denver newspaper reports he will not talk to police.
They hired lawyers immediately. And that just seemed weird. Here this family has a little girl murdered in their home. They're having the lawyers talk the cops. I think there was a sense that perhaps there was a reason to do it.
The average American, thinking of their child being killed, would say, what do you got against talking to the police? You should want this solved tomorrow.
All we saw was that the Ramseys weren't talking to anyone. Why aren't they on the police department's doorstep offering up anything they can, any little piece of information they can? Why are they running?
Those parents still have not sat down and formally been interviewed by the police about their own child's murder. What do people in Boulder think?
Well, I think there's a growing concern around here that that's the case. I don't think the Boulder police have treated them any differently. I think they're trying to get them in there. It's just that they have this team that's protecting them at this point.
We met with our new attorneys, and they said, look, you got to be careful talking to the police. Like, come on, we got to see that and understand that. But our attorneys told us, they said, look, you don't understand how this works. There's a lot of innocent people in prison today because they're defense attorneys.
Oh, hell no.
Police.
Oh, nobody saw that.
Everything they asked for, blood samples, DNA samples, whatever they asked for, records, all of our credit card, anything they asked for, we gave to them.
2 minutes gone in the second quarter of basketball.
The doors of Atlanta's Peachtree Presbyterian Church opened hundreds of times this morning. Family and friends of 6-year-old Jean-Benet Ramsey came by to pay final respects to the Marietta native.
Jean-Benet was going to be buried in Atlanta next to my oldest daughter.
I can tell you that the heart of God is broken. Tragic death. Jean-Benet Ramsey.
As the service ended, the Ramseys walked to their child's casket and kneeled before it.
7 game? That's what's up.
When we were under attack,
You the man out there.
it didn't matter. We lost our child. I mean, I was happy he died, quite frankly, to relieve the pain.
I really didn't get on the street until they were...
Going for 20? Okay.
We're starting to get statements from a PR firm instead of from the Ramseys or their attorneys themselves. And it's not a little funny. And we were like, what is going on?
We were in Atlanta, John Bonet's funeral, and our friends in Boulder were absolutely insistent that we go in front of the media. They said, "You've got..."
I thought I heard a black girl yelling.
How to do it? You're starting to be accused of murder, and you've got to defend yourself. I'm like, okay.
Why did you decide you wanted to talk to him?
Well, we've been isolated, totally isolated for the last 5 days, and we've sensed from our friends that this tragedy has touched not just ourselves and our friends, but human people.
Why are they doing interviews with CNN if they're not going to do a formal interview, sit down with the Boulder police if they want to find the killer of the child?
If anyone knows anything, please help us. For the safety of all the children.
For all the children. For all the
About how medicated Patsy was during that interview. She was slurring her words. She was very emotional.
She was slurring her
words. It's someone outside.
They say
There
that
is a
daddy.
killer on the loose. I don't know who it is. I don't know if
He
it's
said, I don't know that nigga.
If I were a resident of Boulder,
We're seeing a tremendous game from Victor Wembanyama.
And how about the amount he's contributing in the scoring column through 2 quarters? He has been terrific.
Always wants to be a go-to guy for them. I'm sure he'll be calling for the ball even more in this half.
Taking a look at
Patsy Ramsey said in that interview, there's a murder. That remark landed sort of awkwardly in the local community.
Living in this town as I do, I can say there's no sense among the community or the people who I talk to, who I see in my off hours, that we have any reason to be afraid of a person or persons unknown.
Oh, the community didn't believe him.
There was no visible sign of forced entry.
No.
So there isn't a crazed killer on the loose wandering.
Damn.
Boulder.
That mayor stand.
The mayor comes out and says it's not like there's somebody wandering the streets of Boulder looking to stray our children. How does she know? How does anybody know? Nobody knows who the killer is.
I think you would assume that she had information from the police that led her to feel comfortable saying that there was not a killer on the loose and that the police knew who the killer was. And the implication from that clearly would be that it was somebody connected with the family.
Neighbors here in the exclusive Chautauqua Park area appear to be very familiar with Wednesday night's nationally televised interview with the girl's parents. There are very different reactions to Mother Patsy Ramsey's warning that there's a killer on the loose.
Those sounds are phony to me. She's been on the stage phony.
Looking to end the run. The Rockets with another miss.
Friends and family of a murdered 6-year-old mourned the girl at a memorial service in Boulder, Colorado today.
Hands it from downtown.
I think they must have been getting advice to get on out there and show your face. And so they had an orchestrated appearance the Sunday after they got back from John Bonet's burial.
It was the first time since returning to the town their little girl was murdered in that John and Patsy Ramsey had been seen.
It didn't seem sincere to me, and it was almost like a performance. Patsy had on huge black sunglasses, I'll never forget it, and wearing black and being as appealing as she always was, thanking people, shaking hands, hugging.
Parishioners shielded the parents from reporters, but a media handler of it arranged for one camera to take close-ups.
I don't remember because we were in shock, frankly. But I do remember our minister standing up and saying, we need to show John and Patsy support, so let's line the sidewalk as they walk out. And that's what they did. And I think that the media thought that was staged by us. Absolutely false.
Richardson for three, and the three ball is good.
20 days.
In Boulder, Colorado, sources say soon-to-be completed DNA testing may point to the killer of child beauty queen John Benet Ramsey.
What it will tell, I don't know. Case will.
Family spokesman Pat Corton agrees. We're anxious for that material to come back, he says, because we believe strongly it will enable the police to take the family off the potential suspect list.
Ooh, you making chicken?
On January 15th, Bureau of Investigation came out with the DNA report.
They chicken fire.
The DNA report talked about some DNA samples that had been taken from John Benet's fingernails. There was also some DNA that had been taken from her underwear.
Uh-oh.
They compared those items to the DNA profiles of John and Patsy and Bert and Lily and Libby. None of that DNA matched anybody.
They were told in January by their lab, we tested the DNA, there is unidentified male DNA, which excludes the parents and the son. They were told that in January. They kept that secret from the media and from the district attorney for months.
Police in Boulder, Colorado have now confirmed they have received the results of DNA tests in the murder of 6-year-old John Benet Ramsey. However, they would not say what, if anything, the test revealed.
On January 15th, DNA analysis by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation was never, ever linked to the Boulder District Attorney didn't even know about it.
They kept that secret because it conflicted with their conclusion that we were the killers.
They had great foreign DNA evidence that pointed somewhere else. We have DNA in her underwear and under her fingernails that don't match anybody in the family. And there is absolutely zero innocent explanation for foreign DNA to end up on a 6-year-old's underwear. There's no innocent explanation.
Wait.
On January 15th, DNA analysis by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation was never, ever linked to the Boulder District Attorney didn't even know about it.
They kept that secret because it conflicted with their conclusion that we were the killers.
They had great foreign DNA evidence that pointed somewhere else. We have DNA in her underwear and under her fingernails that don't match anybody in the family.
Okay.
And there is absolutely zero innocent explanation for foreign
game.
DNA to end up on a 6-year-old's underwear. There's no innocent explanation.
Big liquid.
Man, so whose DNA is it?
It's the trial we've never seen. John and Patsy Ramsey stand charged with the murder of John Benet Ramsey in a courtroom drama more compelling than any fiction could ever be.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the program. The investigation into the...
I remember one day coming in and kind of plopping down on the sofa and just clicking on the TV, and the Geraldo Rivera show was in progress.
It is entirely possible that this murder mystery will never be solved, that no one will ever be tried for the terrible crimes committed against that lovely child. Except for today. Except for the mock trial we are about to stage for you right here in our studio.
And I'm just sitting there on the
Mock trial.
As A 6-man and woman jury of volunteers will be asked at the end of this presentation whether they think it is more or less likely that one or both of these parents.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. It's good.
Here is Sigma. To the middle. Looks for McGrady. Gets it
bomb, baby.
Committed this dreadful act. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who dressed up this child in a sexually provocative pose with high heels, lipstick, suggestive dances going on? I mean, this is the baggage they bring to this case. You must do justice here.
I didn't even know who these people were. They didn't know who we were.
Now Ralph Feld, plaintiff's attorney, continues his case to the well-known expert in child abuse.
How did they know anything about anything?
What did you study in preparation for your testimony today?
23 hours of tapes of John Bonet during the time that she was in the beauty pageant.
And do any highlights from the tapes you studied stand out in your mind?
On December 23rd, John Bonet is dressed as a little elf doing a show for senior citizens.
What's wrong with it?
She picks up a saxophone, and for the next minute and a half, she masturbates with it.
What's wrong with that? You playing the saxophone.
What's the significance of that?
That's a child who's been sexually stimulated. At 6 years of age, you're not going to put a saxophone between your legs and rub it back and forth. And that's right on the tape. And I don't know why anybody didn't pick it up.
I really did not believe what I was hearing. It's sick for someone to even remotely allude to something so horrible. Just nauseates.
We, the jury, find Patsy Ramsey liable for the wrongful death of John Bonet Ramsey.
And I just came unglued. I went to bed for about 2 days because I just was mortified.
We understand anything is possible under the sun. To the best of our knowledge, however, there is no real evidence in this case that points in any direction other than straight into the faces of John and poor Patsy Ramsey.
From deep.
With the way they're shooting, there's no need to look for any other shot. Just keep letting it rain.
So it's Los Angeles.
Bert, have you been sailing and swimming this summer? Hello.
It's been exactly 14 days now since little JonBenet Ramsey was found dead in the basement of her home.
Boulder police say no one has been ruled out as a suspect, including family members.
Within the first week after the murder, the decision was made we would only have a small group of people who would be what I call the ongoing investigative team. So I wasn't involved with the ongoing Ramsey investigation.
Detective Don Trujillo is the lead investigator on this case. I'm Detective Steve Thomas, and we're not going to take questions.
Steve Thomas was a dedicated cop. He was very, very involved in the case, but he was in the narcotics unit. He had no experience on any type of homicide case. He was very passionate. He had his opinions, and he was very adamant about those opinions.
The detectives, they would just tell me, yeah, the Ramseys did it, the Ramseys did it. We know they did. So I had no reason to disagree with them. I thought They know what they're doing. But years later, after I retired from the police department, I found out all this other information. I started questioning if the Ramseys did it or didn't do it. There was a civil lawsuit a few years after the murder.
Please state your full name. My full name is William Stephen Walton Thomas.
The attorney for the Ramseys asked Detective Steve Thomas, was there a plan from the Boulder Police Department to release information to the news media to say that the Ramseys were involved with their daughter's murder?
Was there any strategy on the part of the Boulder Police Department to try to put pressure on the Ramsey through the public?
I believe there were discussions with the FBI, yes, about how to exert some public pressure on people who are not cooperating yet.
Were they also thinking that they might use the media to apply pressure so that there might be a possibility that one of the parents might confess involvement in the crime?
That may have been some motivation.
Do you believe, from your recollection, that was discussed?
I wouldn't disagree with it.
Their strategy to solve the case was basically sweat or sell it. Like the old movies where they set the suspect down at a table and grill him for 18 hours and he finally signs the confession just to get out of it. But they used the media to do it.
A series of stories were told about the case that were lies.
There was a narrative that started by the Boulder Police Department that it was done by somebody inside of the home because there was a lack of footwear impressions in the snow.
No footprints in the snow, therefore no intruder. Well, there's a reason why there was no footprints in the snow. There was no snow.
There's a slight dusting that you can see on the front end of the house. But if you look at the back side of the home, there's no snow.
The police fed a lot of information that they wanted out there to a guy named Charlie Brennan.
I was given information by a source I trusted that police took note of the fact when they got there that they didn't see footprints in the snow, and they considered that to be significant. Is that Charlie Brennan saying that that's significant? No. I'm reporting that police latched onto that and made an observation and felt it was important.
They took these little bits of information, twisted them around, and then gave it to these few media reporters who said, hey, I'll go with it. I'll go with it on one source.
I have a police report that says no footprints were found in the snow. I'm not sure how I would run down that. I mean, sort of being an investigator myself, which of course you couldn't do. You couldn't, as a reporter, it's not that you take what they say as gospel, but that's what you have to work with.
The Ramseys weren't talking. Their attorneys weren't talking. I mean, it was up to us, and it was our responsibility that if the police told us something, we should try to confirm it and try to reconfirm it and always use the old rule 2 sources, right? And usually I would find 2 sources, but they were usually investigative sources.
A really powerful story that was told was that John Ramsey piloted his jet back to Atlanta with John Monet's coffin on board.
I remember saying to my husband, what kind of person is he? How could he do this when he's got to be so distraught over the terrible way his daughter died and the fact that she was murdered? How could he fly his plane to Atlanta? I said, that just doesn't make sense to me. And my husband was going, no, it doesn't. It wasn't true.
John was not piloting a jet. John Ramsey didn't have a jet.
When I reported that John Ramsey had piloted his own plane back to Atlanta for the funeral, that was inaccurate. It came from a source that I thoroughly trusted and had given me other solid information.
Lying on
information
it.
was wrong. My source was wrong in that case, and that was a mistake.
One of the things that's really important to realize during all of this dishonesty that's being leaked is that on January 15th, the DNA results came back from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. DNA results often leak in murder cases, yet when the one piece of evidence that clears them, or at least clears their DNA, comes back, there's not a leak about it.
She does not want to answer any questions. Patsy Ramsey's attorney has kept her from talking with investigators, but not from giving handwriting samples.
Very early on, there was massive police leaking that Patsy Ramsey had written the ransom note.
According to a published report, investigators have found similarities between Patsy Ramsey's handwriting and the writing used in the ransom note.
What?
At least 4 experts, and 2 of them from the Secret Service, looked at the handwriting and said Patsy Ramsey did not write the note.
No evidence indicated Patsy Ramsey executed any of the question material appearing on the ransom note. Was that Mr. Dusick's conclusion?
Among other things.
And he was a document analyst for the United States Secret Service, right?
Right.
9.
They didn't
All
want
right,
the
nigga.
answers, so they leaked information saying she did write it.
I'm curious if you were an investigator trying to put together a case, what you might make of what we do know about the note. One of the things that's been brought out is that the $118,000 figure, which seemed rather peculiar to people, and it wasn't a good round number at the time, now is reportedly the amount of Mr. Ramsey, the father's bonus for the year.
What?
The amount of the ransom was $118,000, which is really bizarre. It turns out that that ransom amount requested was similar to John Ramsey's bonus amount, $118,700 some dollars. It immediately leaked to the newspapers with the impression, hey, they wrote the ransom note and used this amount of money, which is kind of silly when you think about it.
If this intruder came in and had waited in the house and went to Mr. Ramsey's office, he could have gone through the papers. I was told that apparently it was listed in documents that were there.
Two people who have not been cleared are JonBenét's parents, who remain in seclusion.
Police continue to send out signals the parents of JonBenet are prime suspects, particularly John Ramsey.
At the very beginning, not many people were on the Ramsey's didn't do it side. And most people thought that John Ramsey had killed his own daughter, maybe molested his daughter and killed her.
The law enforcement sources I talked to believed that there had been some sort of sexual abuse of JonBenet, chronic sexual abuse, not just that it occurred that night. I had sources who talked to me. There were pictures of JonBenet that were like on her dad's desk and things like that. And at the time, I think they were considered sexualized pictures. There was a lot of eyebrows raised. They just thought those were odd pictures that a father would have of a 6-year-old in his office.
The logic seems to
That's
be...
from the pageant.
She's in the pageant. The parents have put her in the pageant. She's kind of sexualized. John Ramsey is her dad. Therefore, John Ramsey is sexually abusing her. It's impossible to connect the dots. But a lot of people did connect the dots.
The police, did they ask you about sexual abuse of JonBenet Ramsey?
Yes, of course they did.
What did you tell them?
I told them absolutely, categorically, no. There was absolutely no evidence, either physical or historical.
When I interviewed JonBenet's pediatrician, he told me, no, she's never had any sexual abuse in her life. He would have lost his medical license if he ever lied about that.
There was never any hint whatsoever of sexual abuse. I didn't see any hint of emotional abuse or physical abuse. She was a very much loved child.
The tabloids were crucial in pushing the narrative about sexual abuse. It was just everywhere. And it was great for the tabloids. They sold a lot of copies. They were untrue, unfounded, but that didn't matter. It was a good story.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I became involved in this case was not because of the crime itself. It was because of the way the media dealt with the crime. A lot of my work and research has been about the decline of journalistic values. And I thought the media coverage nominated was a picture-perfect example of that.
A documentary on British television about the Ramsey case. With us in Denver, Michael Tracy, creator of Who Killed John Bonet, a documentary professor at the University of Colorado.
I called Brian Morgan, who's John Ramsey's attorney, and I said, I want to make a documentary about your client's experience. And we then did 5 days of interviews with him. And that was a fascinating experience.
On behalf of all of you, overwhelmingly is a very basic argument that Jean Bonet was a sexually abused child. First, what is your general reaction to that large allegation?
Well, it's disgusting to even have to respond to that. It's absolutely false.
People make this stuff up. I mean, they just make it up. There's no one that they have to be held accountable to. I mean, it's just false. And then it just snowballs. I heard, he heard, she heard, and they just build on it.
The latest interview in the John Bonet Ramsey murder investigation belongs to a former Miss America, a woman who hid her own story and tragedies for decades.
One of the things that the police did in that effort to basically convict us in the court of public opinion, they brought in a woman named Marilyn Vanderburg.
Marilyn Vanderveer Atlas, who was a victim of incest by her father, says Boulder police wanted to talk to her.
They asked me every question that you would ask me.
I don't know who she was, so I wouldn't recognize her if she walked in the door.
Was your home like John Bonet's home, the public image at least, a loving father?
Oh my,
a well-known father?
Oh yes.
And so the inference in the interview was, yeah, I've seen this, I've experienced sexual abuse as a child, this looks to me like sexual abuse by the parents. And of course that was absolute
bullshit. Tell him, man.
They even alleged that perhaps my daughter Beth, who just graduated from college, was working and was killed in a car accident, might have been sexually abused.
Investigators in the John Bonet Ramsey murder are now looking into the death of her 22-year-old half-sister.
John Bonet's 22-year-old half-sister Elizabeth was killed in a car crash 5 years ago.
It's like, oh my God, how low can you go?
When we made our first documentary, we went to great lengths to say, is there any evidence of sexual abuse? We told a friend, we told a family. Melinda, nothing.
You know, I'm John Ramsey's daughter. I grew up with him when he raised me, and I saw him raise John Bonet, and I don't understand why they don't believe me. That he is the most caring father in the world. He has never, ever abused us in any way.
Oh, she needs to be with him.
I could say something to convince them.
Man, this shit throwing me back and forth. Cause that's kind of weird how. 10 Gauge Street, let's go! Check your what you get for your next reward, like in the agendas.
So you get it, right?
Forget the street. Oh, it's a good screenshot. You better screenshot it, Liquid.
I mean, you know, y'all were looking to see if there was any pathology in this family on either John Ramsey's part or Patsy Ramsey's part, right?
We did.
And you didn't find any, did you?
Okay. You think you get 25 more for the 50?
Remarkable or outstanding as far as what you're inquiring about.
Illegal drug use would be pathology. Child abuse would be pathology.
My only friend.
Domestic violence would be pathology, right?
In the chat.
Didn't find anything.
All I got is Trudy in the chat. Mason! Oh no, that's your hand.
Not that I'm aware of.
Look. I did. I'm gonna
We were
send
being
you
prosecuted
when I'm
in the
done
court
playing.
public.
All right, bro. TikTok, right?
Of course, by that time we were pretty much convicted. We got up to poll people, did a poll at some point in that
I'm
period.
cooked. I'm going to get
70% of those
Oh,
polls
okay.
felt the family.
Screenshot that 10. The 10 look nice.
Parents killed their daughter.
People hated the Ramseys. They hated them. And it was because of the information that had come out about them that was incorrect.
We were followed by the media everywhere. We'd stay with friends, and within a day or two, the house would just be surrounded by cameras and people banging on the door and the windows.
That's crazy.
What really got us off the floor was we realized we had other children that needed us now to be more strong than ever. Bert particularly. He lost his sibling. They were pals, and a horrible thing for a 9-year-old kid to be exposed to.
We had tried to shield Bert as much as possible over the months and weeks, keeping him away from any kind of television or newspaper. We went out shopping for school supplies and paper and pencils and all the little supplies in our shopping buggy and headed to the checkout and, bam.
Right there was
at
killed.
eye level, his eye
Oh, they tried to blame it on the little brother.
see them.
Oh.
I said, honey, they're all wise. I said, they're
The little
ugly.
boy seen it too, and he could read
I
it.
said, you just have to pretend like you don't see them.
It's just simply not fair to you. You look back at pictures of 9-year-old. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd to think, well, yeah, he could have, killed his sister and delivered this level of violence. I mean, it's just crazy.
Here's Long. He's guarded by Johnson. 6 on the shot clock.
Box out, box out, box out, box out.
I want to say something to the person
No!
that committed this crime. List the suspects
Ah.
narrow.
Go all the way.
There will be no one on the list.
That's you.
When law enforcement talks informally or officially, they gave every indication that that they were close to solving it.
We will see that justice is served in this case, and that you pay for what you did. And we have no doubt that will happen.
The complicating factor that the law enforcement sources had, they told me, is that, okay, so if you think that the Ramseys did it, right, which one did what? They felt it was one person who did this. It wasn't something like where both parents were involved.
At what point in time did you say, I think Patsy Ramsey killed her daughter?
It was not a defining moment in which the bell rang, and I noted the date and time. Early in 1997, it became more and more apparent to me that that's where the abundance of evidence was leading.
One of the initial theories that were developed by the Boulder Police Department was that Patsy Ramsey, in a fit of rage, killed her daughter because she had spoiled the bed.
In my hypothesis, an approaching 40th birthday, the busy holiday season, an exhausting Christmas day, and an argument with John Bonet had left Patsy frazzled. Patsy would not be the first mother to lose control in such a situation. One of the doctors we consulted cited toileting issues as a textbook example of causing a parental rage. So in my hypothesis, there was some sort of explosive encounter in the child's bathroom sometime prior to 1 o'clock in the morning. I believe John Bonet was slammed against a hard surface, such as the edge of a tub, inflicting a mortal head wound.
Detective Steve Thomas said Mrs. Ramsey became upset because John Bonet was wetting the bed, and in a fit of rage, lost control and supposedly hit John Bonet and then staged a scene.
As I pictured the scene, her dilemma was that the police would assume the obvious. Patsy needed a diversion and planned the way she thought a kidnapping should look. In my hypothesis, she took the next step, looking for the closest available items in desperation. Only feet away was her paint tote. She grabbed a paintbrush and broke it to fashion the garret with some cord. In my scenario, she choked John Bonet from behind with a grip on her broken paintbrush handle, pulling the ligature. Throughout the coming hours, Patsy worked on her staging, such as placing the ransom note where she would be sure to find it the next morning.
The evidence does not match that at all. First of all, we know that John Bonet was alive while she was being tortured in the moments before her death. We know this because she had hemorrhaging in her eyes, hemorrhaging in her heart. That was consistent with being strangled. So if you believe that Patsy Ramsey did this, she would have had to do all these things.
I lost that to 10 game. Okay.
She was alive when this was being done.
Well, did all the experts agree that John Benet Ramsey was alive at the time of the injury to her vagina?
Again, I don't know what experts you're referring to.
I'm talking about the acute vaginal trauma she suffered at the time of her murder. The agreement was unanimous that she was alive at the time that vaginal trauma was inflicted. True?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
So Patsy Ramsey theoretically got John Benet Ramsey there pulling at this garrote around her neck, scratching at it, and you still believe that the garrote would have been placed there by Patsy Ramsey to stage the crime? Is that what your testimony is?
If that's what you're telling me, I won't dispute you. That's what happened.
Well, do you believe that's what happened?
No, I've offered a hypothesis that I believe was consistent with the evidence as I knew it, that possibly what happened.
I have 5 children. They all wet their beds, I'm sure, when they were little. That's no big deal. It's just part of little kids. Patsy had just recovered from stage 4 ovarian cancer. She was grateful to be alive. Do you think that her child wetting her bed would be a big deal? No. She was happy to be alive and to have some more time with her children. So it's just nonsense. It didn't pass the sanity test. But yet that was their premise, that, oh, she wet her bed, Patsy went crazy, killed her, and we made the whole kidnapping thing up.
Of cool, comfortable sleep is here. Introducing the new Sleep Number Climate Cool Smart Bed, the only smart bed in the world that actively cools and effortlessly adjusts to both of you. Sleep up to 15 degrees cooler on each side. It actively cools by drawing warm air away from your body to keep you cool and comfortable throughout the night. Our smart sleepers get 28 minutes more restful sleep per night. And now save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery when you add a base. Shop a Sleep Number store near you.
For months now, the nation has been hanging on every detail surrounding John Benet Ramsey's death. And tonight there's more information, not about the case. There appears to be a major rift between the Boulder police and the prosecutor.
One thing to note here that's important is there was a lack of respect from the Boulder Police Department towards the Boulder District.
Some Boulder police people thought they knew who did it. And some of my people were convinced that it was an intruder that did it. So that you had a split.
Relations to the district attorney's office and the police by the spring of '97 really got sour. Alexander, the district attorney, wanted an experienced eyes and ears for him. And Alex hired Detective Lou Smith.
This is Lou Smith. Today is March the 9th, 1997. And I'm on my way to Boulder, Colorado to talk with Alex Myers, who is the district attorney. I do feel very strongly that the killer of John Benet Ramsey should be caught.
Every
and
fucking day.
face for what he or she has done to this little girl.
Initially, I got involved with the John Benet Ramsey case because of my good friend and mentor, Lou Smith, being involved. Lou, for me, has always been one of those guys that's a law enforcement legend. He was an exceptional person. He's an exceptional detective.
Captain Smythe has worked on a number of high-profile cases and has investigated more than 150 homicides. He has an impeccable reputation and is highly respected by police officers, prosecutors, and judges throughout the state of Colorado.
He had solved another case down in Colorado Springs where a little girl had been taken from her home from a single fingerprint on a window.
Dang.
Many times things are as they seem. I'm not saying it's a kidnapping or a kind of a botched plan for kidnapping, maybe even family related in some way. But all I'm saying is that things just don't feel good as far as being completely defense. But I do know this, that little girl doesn't mean an awful lot to them. And she did mean something in this world. I just hope I can give some use in bringing that killer or killers to justice.
So at the time, I was actually an employee of a local sheriff's office, and Lou Smith was actually my commander. He said, "Hey, I need you to come on board and help me organize and figure out what's going on in this case." Lou is one of those guys. He was a Sherlock Holmes at this time, and you know when he looked at this, I mean, obviously one of the first things you're going to do is look over the body.
Detroit trails by 8.
Now, what I'd like to show you is what I think is one of the most important clues left behind by the killer. Okay. There's marks on John Benet. Those are marks on her back. Those are marks on her face. And they're the same distance apart. The marks on the face and the marks on the back. The same distance apart. If you look, they're slightly.
Oh!
Luke did a number of tests determining that they were air taser marks from a stun gun.
That's good from Richardson.
He actually did a test using a pig, because the pig skin is the closest to the human skin, and they found that the injuries from the stun gun looked very similar to the injuries from what was on John Benet's face and back.
The thing with the taser, I think that's what was used in that taser when she was in bed. That would be the easiest way, was making very little noise, and then he could carry her down and whatever he wanted to do with her.
Go!
The law enforcement sources that I had, at least to me, never indicated that they put much of any kind of importance on whether a stun gun was or wasn't used.
Boulder PD thought the stun gun marks for her face and back were created from laying on some train tracks. If anything, they've been doing nothing but dismissing the stun gun.
What did the Boulder Police Department conclude caused these marks found on John Benet Ramsey's back?
What was believed to be stun gun marks may have been a patterned object, if I recall correctly, or I think another explanation was on her back, lying on some sort of object.
Stun gun, like that never sat well with Lou. Like, why? Why would a mom or dad stun gun their daughter in to take her to the basement?
I'm going to show you John Benet's better. When the police come in that morning, the very first picture they take is of that bed. And that's early in the morning. This is what John Benet's bed looked like. If you look real carefully, you can see where somebody is pulled off the bed here. You know, it looks like it pulls and then stops right there. Almost as if
they wet?
When?
That morning.
On
You
the
asked? You asking the officers there, hey, by the way, was the sheets on John Benet's bed wet? Did you ask that question to anybody?
I did not.
And people say that maybe Patsy Ramsey changed the bedding. But there's all kinds of fibers and hair stuff in the bedding already there. And so if it was washed, it probably wouldn't be in there like that. So this bedding has been on there for a little while. So there's guest bed in there. That's right next to John Benet's bed. This rope is not guest bed. It's not the ring.
That's the group for Detroit right now.
Nobody in the ring is in that. There is a possibility that the injury taken at it was also used as binding and kept it up there.
Right, he stays connected and great timing.
When they brought Lou Smith in, I think people were open-minded. But then police started realizing that he was starting to believe that the Ramseys were innocent. That was not what they thought. It was, they felt like he was going down the wrong road. They called him a delusional old man. They felt like he was just a bumbling guy who was trying to make a name for himself by presenting a different theory.
Lou is far from being a delusional old man. He's the kind of detective that everyone would want in their community.
I went to bed very late last night. I talked to friends. I really feel that the investigation is going down the wrong track. That open window in the basement has really been bothering me. It is open. That's where the body is found. I believe I could maybe enter that way. Maybe I could do it that way.
There's a lot of attention focused on this window right over here, ground floor window. Can you talk about that?
I can't. I'm sorry.
The fuck?
Now this is where I think the killer actually got in at some point. And there's a gas grill here, and then there's a south door to the house. Right behind this gas grill is a grate. You just put the grate up, you're looking straight down into the window. There's 3 windows there. The center one was the one that was open. These photographs tell a story. And they tell a great story, because look at this photograph real closely. Yeah. And you're going to see foliage, that green foliage under the leading edge. That's great. To grow that big, the grate has to be picked up, put down, or
Lou Smith was seen several times entering in and out of this window because Boulder police didn't think that it was possible. I think at the time Lou was about 66 years old, and he wanted to prove that it was possible, and did it quite easily.
And if you remember, there was a suitcase that was right underneath this window. And on top of the suitcase
I remember this.
was a very small, tiny, pea-sized piece of glass. And a faint impression of possibly a footprint on the suitcase. A lot of people say, well, you know, who would go to a house to a parent's house and hide in the house, wait for the parents, and who would do that? It takes a special kind of a person to do that.
I firmly believe that we left for took the kids and went to some friend's house for dinner Christmas night. I don't remember when we left, maybe 6-ish, got home by 9:30 probably. I believe the killer came into our home while we were gone and waited until we were asleep. I think that's for sure.
It's important to know that we had cases in Boulder where suspects went into residents in the middle of the night and either attempted a sex assault or completed sex assaults both before and after the Ramsey case.
In September of '97, about 9 months after John Benet's death, there was an incident in another nice neighborhood in Boulder, not that far from the Ramsey's home.
A little girl was assaulted in her home when her mom was sleeping in a master bedroom. Her dad was gone away for business.
My feeling is he got into the house while they were out and hid inside the house.
Sometime in the late hours, mom hears a noise going on.
And she grabbed, I believe, pepper spray and went down the hall. And there was, in fact, an intruder in her daughter's bedroom preparing to molest her. And that woman succeeded in chasing that intruder out of the house using her pepper spray. That person has never been identified. It subsequently came to light that that girl had attended the same dance studio as John Benet. Are the two cases connected? I don't know.
The police, in their wisdom, said, well, it's not the same, because that child wasn't murdered. John Benet was murdered. If I were a novice detective, I'd say those are pretty similar methods of killing.
Are they right? Are they wrong? Was their conclusion shaded by the accusation that they have been focused solely on a different theory of the case? I don't know.
In Boulder, Colorado, the sensational and unsolved murder of a young beauty pageant queen is back in the news tonight under the heading "Starting Over 1 year later."
Never been this popular before, guys.
But the new man in charge of the John Benet Ramsey case still couldn't say these are any closer to solving the grisly crime.
We have not yet submitted a case for prosecution, nor have we prepared an arrest warrant.
Beckner confirmed John and Patsy Ramsey remain under the umbrella of suspicion.
At this point, it's been a long time, right? And I think there was a general sense of, why is this still
Why is he getting fouls?
Last year, Hunter spent $128,000 on the investigation, and $51,000 so far this year. Hunter's latest expenditure is $60,000 to pay a grand jury specialist, a person who will advise investigators about whether a secret panel should see Jean-Benet Ramsey's case.
When I got involved in the case, they were going nowhere because there was been such a rift that had developed between the district attorney's office, prosecutors, and the police department.
Kane's background is impressive. He currently works for the state of Pennsylvania and used to be a prosecutor in Denver. His specialty? Grand juries. That's why he's joining the Ramsey investigation, to help DA Alex Hunter should a secret panel investigate the murder.
My first day on the job, there was a big presentation that the police department gave.
We've got the whole day scheduled, and we don't.
Over the course of 2 days, Steve Thomas and other detectives put forward everything they had.
Detective Steve Thomas ran a list of reasons why the Ramseys were under suspicion, including the behavior of John and Patsy Ramsey was not in keeping with a kidnapping, unlike the way people would respond after a death.
They felt that they had put forward enough to perhaps trigger the filing of charges, or at the very least, convening of a grand jury.
It's going to be, at this point, a process of sifting through that and really making a decision about the strength of the case against anybody or whether there's a need to go forward.
After it was all over, we all met, and Alex Hunter said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, you don't have a chargeable case right now." And it was like some people in that room were shocked, and then that's when all of a sudden I get this letter handed to me that came into the office from Steve Thomas.
Turmoil once again in the long and deeply troubled investigation of Jean-Benet Ramsey's murder. ABC News has learned that one of the lead detectives in the case has resigned in protest, filing off a blistering letter that attacks the district attorney.
Steve Thomas's resignation was big news.
After 20 months, a growing number of people are going public about their concerns, their frustration over what happened in this home December 26th of 1996.
Governor Roy Romer summoned all the key players down to the governor's office in Denver to say, what's going on? It was pressure from the governor's office which ultimately persuaded Alex Hunter, okay, we're going to do a grand jury.
It appears as though that letter did somehow influence the direction that this investigation is going to take. I have no doubt in my mind that because of this, that the Ramseys will be indicted, especially with the atmosphere and the poisoned well of false information against the Ramseys. There is evidence of an intruder. I say this over and over and over again. Nobody wants to listen. And as a result of that, there's a very good chance that tragedy could again strike this family.
Amid a buzz of activity outside the Boulder County Justice Center, people jockeyed for parking space amid tangled traffic and tight security. With the media circus hailing them, the 12 Boulder County residents who make up the Jean-Benet Ramsey grand jury arrived early morning to do their civic duty.
The grand jury was in process. We fully expected, never prepared to be indicted. Because the saying is you can indict a ham sandwich in front of a grand jury. It's a one-sided argument.
In a regular criminal trial, you have your 12 jurors here, and then you have two tables, one for the defense, one for the prosecution. But in a grand jury, it's different. There is no defense.
The goal was to get an indictment for murder. Don't worry about any counter plots or defense.
Michael Caine, Bruce Levin, and Mitch Morrissey arrived bright and early too. They are the prosecutors specially brought in to present the case.
I'll never forget. I pulled up in my car the first day, and I was surrounded by cameras.
Leading the team is grand jury specialist Mike Caine.
We ask ourselves every day, how could a person do this? Well, we've seen cases where people who are, look like the all-American family turn around and do something horrendous because something triggered something on a particular date.
My impression of Mike Caine was he was out to get us just like any other police department. He was in their camp.
Mitch Morrissey comes by way of the Denver County DA, where he's considered an expert on the use of DNA evidence.
I have seen cases where no matter how they presented themselves publicly, no matter how wealthy they were, no matter how, the family seemed to be a cohesive unit, the parents did it.
There may be strategic reasons why John and Patsy Ramsey have not been called to testify before the grand jury.
We offered to testify to the grand jury. They wouldn't let us.
Prosecutors may fear the Ramseys could charm the grand jury if they testified in person.
Well, today is quite a day. It's September 22nd, 1998. It is going to be my last official day in this investigation.
Because of the grand jury, he resigned. Regretfully, he resigned.
He would have no part in trying to convict an innocent couple. And that's how strongly he felt about this case.
This grand jury is a farce. The police are going to submit a manufactured version of the case, sugar-coated, and spoon-fed to this grand jury. Mike Caine is going to do this. My intentions at this time are to try in every way that I can to testify before the grand jury because I really think it's important that they do hear this information.
Lou Smith fought to get into that grand jury to show the other side.
I did get a letter from Michael Caine that my request to testify before the grand jury was denied. The letter from Michael Caine also stated that I could not even repeat that I had been contacted by this letter in any way, so they're trying to silence me completely.
Dang.
That's absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. I didn't take any steps to keep Lou Smith out of the grand jury and try to portray it that, you know, and I know it's been portrayed in books and people like making statements that, you know, I was like, God, no, I can't have the grand jury hearing. That is just absolute garbage.
An attorney threatened to sue to get him in front of the grand jury, and he finally was allowed.
I was never treated so unfairly as with that 40 years in law enforcement. Everything he said was attacked. And I've never felt so humiliated. In fact, when I was at the grand jury, it turns out Alex Hunter was dead. And I said, Alex, there's no way.
Like detectives tracing the path of a killer, the grand jurors who've been studying the murder of JonBenet Ramsey took their investigation from the courtroom to the crime scene today.
When we started the grand jury, we thought, you know, it would be helpful for them to see the house.
This was an old house that had been added on to and had kind of a rabbit warren type feel to it. You know, it'd be difficult to navigate this house if you didn't know this house.
To get to the second floor where her room was, it wouldn't have been intuitive of how to get there. And then to find your way from there down into the basement.
Kind of a rabbit warren type feel to it. You know, it'd be difficult to navigate this house if you didn't know this house.
To get to the second floor where her room was, it wouldn't have been intuitive of how to get there. And then to find your way from there down into the basement really was not intuitive, especially in the middle of the night when the lights are on.
That's crazy.
So I'm not saying that sealed the deal, that it had to be somebody on the inside versus somebody from the outside.
Yo.
But it certainly was
All
a
right.
factor.
With questions about unmatched DNA found in JonBenet's underwear, it's not clear how much time prosecutors will need before the grand jury probe is finished.
Everybody bringing me in kind of thought, okay, there's this DNA, but it's really not that big a deal in this case. And actually, it became the big deal in the case. We had a DNA profile that had come out of the little girl.
I need some food. I'll be right back, chat.
everybody bringing me in kind of thought, okay, there's this DNA, but it's really not that big a deal in this case. And actually, it became the big deal in the case. We had a DNA profile that had come out of the little girl's underpants. This was in the crotch mixed with blood that clearly came when she was penetrated by a broken paintbrush. And that penetration caused her to bleed and mixed with this DNA. We knew it was male, but we knew it wasn't sperm. It could have been saliva, it could have been some other form of bodily fluid. It could be a large, significant amount of skin cells. None of the family members matched. And then basically all of the criminals that are in the national DNA database were compared. None of them match. So you have this dilemma that was created.
Without having a match, we can't say a killer left this and he's out there somewhere because it wasn't anybody who was in the house. You just can't say that.
The problem is we never found the male that left that DNA.
They tried to go to China, to the underwear factory where John Bonet's underwear was made, and see if they could find a white male working in the factory, take his DNA, match it to the unidentified DNA, and therefore explain away why that DNA was there, who it belonged to.
We went so far as to find out the whole manufacturing chain.
They tried desperately to find a match that was an innocent explanation. That was the mentality.
After more than a year of looking over evidence and hearing testimony, the grand jury has now made its decision.
They let us know that there was going to be an announcement, so I'm telling you, the parking lot across from the Boulder County Justice Center was packed with satellite trucks, television cameras, reporters standing on boxes. It was almost like leading up to a Super Bowl.
We were ready to go be arrested. We signed papers to have work under guardianship of my brother. We were pretty much ready to go to jail and be tried.
The District Attorney Alex Hunter now talking live about what the grand jury has decided.
Hello.
Tonight, a first in the John Benet Ramsey homicide case. Her parents, John and Patsy, square off against former Boulder police detective Steve Thomas.
Oh!
Some people said, you should have done that, but we didn't. We were trying to put some sense into the discussion.
When did you come to the conclusion you came to? And that conclusion is what?
My theory is that Patsy, in a violent confrontation with her daughter,
accidentally killed her?
No, not accidental, I hypothesize, in the sense that it lacked motive.
What? Tell me exactly, step by step, how you envision.
I wasn't there, Patsy. You were in the home.
You
that
must
night.
have conjured something in your head for you to come out and call me a murderer of my child.
Patsy,
Now, I want to hear 1 through
I
10.
think you heard.
When did I write this ransom note? Before or after?
You wrote the ransom
No,
note.
you're the one theorizing here. You tell me.
You were in the house that night.
put together what you think happened that night.
Well, I think there was a toileting issue that night that has been dismissed and underplayed. A bedwetting or a toileting issue.
That caused Patsy to get mad at her daughter.
Absolutely.
What?
Our child wet her bed and we slaughtered her. That is so preposterous.
You weren't there, John. You can't.
I was there. I know Patsy. I
were
lived
there.
with her for 20 years. I know that she loved that child more than anything in the world.
Well, we agree, Patsy, that almost none of it makes sense.
It was an evil.
What did the guy do? Why did the intruder do this?
Evil person.
God knows, and the truth is going to prevail.
Damn, that nigga was saying she killed him. White on white violence. I like seeing that. When white people argue with each other, I love it.
Grand jurors were escorted into the Boulder County Justice Center by sheriff's deputies. They had an audience of media from around the world who have descended on Boulder. After more than a year of looking over evidence and hearing testimony, the grand jury has now made its decision.
The grand jurors have done their work extraordinarily well, bringing to bear all of their legal powers, life experiences, and shrewdness. Yet I must report to you that I and my prosecution task force believe we do not have sufficient evidence.
What's good with it, Razor? Nobody.
Take that and move forward. The Ramseys would indeed.
And we're getting it in. What time you? How much more time you got?
The reason it didn't happen is not only is it that there is no case against these two people, they didn't kill JonBenet. The only thing they ever did was love her. And that is what is being revealed today.
Lou Smith, the detective I spoke with him today, he's never appeared on. He said to me today, this was a great day in legal history.
Oh, 30 minutes, okay. Hell yeah. Get it in, man.
It was really amazing.
I told my photographer, key in on Michael Caine's face when the announcement's made. And you could see Michael Caine's lower lip was quivering. It looked like he was really upset.
There was a lot of disappointment, but it wasn't because of what the grand jury did or didn't do or whatever. It was a disappointment that I'd spent close to 2 years working on this thing.
And I'm off tomorrow, grind time. Uh-oh.
I looked up
I'm off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
the lead police detectives were staring at us.
So I got season 3 all in my hands. You know Hoff Boy's gonna get that Hoff pass.
Yet they pounded the table and they were screaming and door slams. They were really, really upset.
There was a general mixture of disappointment and despair, a feeling of disgrace, and that America had seen government at its worst.
They had taken
You already know.
steps in this investigation, did their damnedest to bring charges against John and Patsy Ramsey, and there was nothing there. Absolutely.
I wonder who gonna be the pass.
They blew an opportunity to use grand jury investigative powers to find the killer.
Do you know if the grand jury voted?
We don't. I certainly don't. And I was trying to read between the lines as he spoke yesterday, and I think he chose his words very
carefully. Alex Hunter could have announced that afternoon that the grand jury has elected not to indict anybody. He could have said the grand jury indicted somebody, but we're not going to prosecute. He didn't say either of those. We were left not knowing what did they do. A number of years down the road, two sources of mine told me, you can't report this, but they indicted both John and Patsy. So I set out to contact grand juries, and multiple grand juries confirmed for me that's what happened.
In the end, the grand jury indicted, not for murder, but for child abuse, finding the Ramseys allowed JonBenet to be placed in a situation which resulted in death.
As I understand it, the grand jurors didn't know who might have done what, but felt that there was something that happened there.
The grand jury found John and Patsy Ramsey had intent to hinder, delay, and prevent their daughter's killer from being prosecuted.
They believed was that the parents knew what had happened or should have known what had happened or should have got her help and failed to do so. That's what one grand jury said.
Was there evidence to indict John and Patsy Ramsey?
Nice.
Based upon the evidence of the murder, I believe that's correct.
What the grand jury was telling us was they found there was probable cause for these people to be indicted. But there's a long step between probable cause, which is the lowest standard in the criminal justice system, and proof beyond a reasonable doubt, that is the highest.
There's no way that I would be able to say beyond reasonable doubt this is person.
If you don't have a reasonable likelihood of conviction, you have a moral obligation. You have an ethical obligation as a prosecutor to not prosecute that case.
It would have been easy to bring charges, but to drop charges when you didn't feel you could make your case would have been a horrible thing to do. I feel at peace and to some extent proud of the fact that I weathered the storm and did the right thing.
Come on, Mason.
After the grand jury, we went back to Atlanta. And by that time, we pretty much exhausted our life savings. We sold our house, we sold assets to try to pay attorneys and investigators. All we wanted was to find the killer.
As long as there is a killer at work who has murdered our child, our lives will never go on.
Someone killed this 6-year-old child. We know that. We want to catch him.
We knew the police were not investigating the crime. They'd already decided that it was Patsy or I. And so we knew the police were not going to follow up.
And there is one letter, no charges. Nothing is being done on the case. The police department has it.
Yeah. They saying she did it there, but why would they write the note, put it upstairs? That's a lot.
In the police department.
And kill the kid right there.
We're just waiting for John Ramsey to die, so this thing will go away.
The killer walks the streets of this country, and we need to be looking for that person.
The whole purpose of engaging with the media was to put pressure on the police. We're not going away. I'm going to be hammering on you until I die. If you don't find this creature that did this to our daughter.
Lou Smith tells us that we can, Detective
Lou Smith is the
Smith,
only homicide investigator that's ever looked at this case.
and he says definitively that there is enough evidence to find this man.
I'm just going to continue to
Smith wanted that case. And so he, on his own, continued to work the case.
Well, I think we're looking definitely at a pedophile, a very specific one. I'm pretty sure he's near one of these pageants.
I don't think sex when I see that little girl just singing. That's weird. Even the white, all the white people.
When you see the footage of her in her little cowboy suit going, I want to be a cowboy sweetheart and all that, I've never seen anything like it.
Very early on in this investigation, police received information about an individual by the name of Calrealsolid. He had sexually assaulted one of his neighbors.
Right. That's a little kid in a dress and makeup. That's all it is. It's just little kids with swimsuits on. Ain't like no grown women walking around swinging booty and stuff. But even it being American, you programmed to know that.
That's what I'm saying. You have to have a fetish or you like that because you grow up and you be around and you know it's like, you don't, I don't know.
You know it's wrong.
I don't know how they.
Because they doing it and knowing it's wrong, but they don't care. That's the problem.
That's a fucking little girl. Like, how do a little girl turn you on to want to
And stick a paint stick in her? Ew, that's crazy.
Girls while he lived in Oregon and fled. He ended up in Boulder, Colorado, and was a transient. One of Calrealsolid's friends indicated that Gary called him and was distraught, said that he had just hurt a little girl. As a result of all that, the Boulder Police Department took a hard look.
When police went to go find him in his tent, he had pictures of John Bonet.
What?
Or killed John
No. No, he didn't.
He said he didn't.
I believe that she came to me after she was killed and revealed herself to me.
He later confessed, basically indicating that he would take credit for the John Bunny Ramsey homicide if the police would just guarantee that he could have 3 square meals a day and a roof over his head.
Damn.
His DNA did not match the evidence at the scene.
He just didn't want to be homeless.
Confirmed that he, in fact, was the person who committed the crime.
He had pictures of her in his tent.
When you dress your child up and you put that much makeup on her and you have that kind of clothing, like Las Vegas showgirl clothing, costumes, you might inadvertently and innocently attract someone, a sexual predator. My name is Joyce, singular. I've co-authored 2 books with my husband, investigative journalist, singular.
In the last week of 1996, I heard about the John Bonet Ramsey case mostly through my wife. She was interested in it very quickly.
We lived in Denver, which is only 30 miles from Boulder. We had a son who was 3 years old at the time, and of course it was such a brutal crime that we couldn't believe that a child could be murdered like that.
We thought that if the Ramseys are really guilty of something and it's hardly a crime, I think they were guilty of being naive. I think dressing her up the way they did was capable of getting the attention of and stimulating the wrong people.
When John May was first killed, my husband and I decided to start interviewing child beauty pageant mothers who had been in the same circuit with John Bonet. Some of the pageant mothers suspected that some of the spectators that were coming to the pageants weren't there because they had children that were in the pageant. They were just there observing. They also told us about photographers, particularly one photographer.
They all told us the same story, that the primary photographer for John Bonet and for many of the little girls in this area.
Yeah, they ain't just gonna let no random dude just post up.
Which ended up being stopped all over the tabloids. And a lot of child beauty pageant mothers were angered over this. This particular pageant mother said that in Simon's studio, he had some borderline inappropriate photos on the wall. Maybe not child pornography, but young girls without popcorn or, seemingly innocent, but kind of sketchy or questionable. And they were suspect of him.
You have a whole pattern of behavior in which, at least to me, the questions scream out at you.
Beauty pageant mothers told us shortly after the crime, he called some of them up saying, I did not kill John Bonet, I did not kill John Bonet, and it was hysterical. Well, nobody said he did it. It would have raised some red flags.
I called Randy Simon several times. He only picked up one. And he was skittish, and he said, I know more about this case, but I'm not going to tell you. And he didn't.
A year later, he was walking down the street naked, and the police were called. And again, he said to the police, I did not kill John Bonet. That's...
They in there, they in the group chat arguing about Drake and Kenzie. They brought it back up because of that fucking album.
He had been arrested in Lane County, Oregon, and he had been downloading child pornography at a restaurant through their public Wi-Fi. He was subsequently charged and indicted on 15 charges of child pornography, and he was sentenced to 10 years in jail. But Randy Simon's DNA was not found at the crime scene.
Golly.
Our killer could still be out there. This killer could still be murdering people today. I think he's a very experienced guy. He just don't graduate into beauty. He lived a lot. He's got fantasy. He wanted to be a he wasn't afraid to be a
In March of 1997, the Boulder police got a call from North Carolina about a man named John Brewer.
Boulder police end up searching for clues halfway across the country in Charlotte, North Carolina. Investigators went south to review evidence against this man, John Brewer Eustace. He's charged with the rape and kidnap of a Charlotte child last month.
He was a drifter.
They shall find anybody.
Confessed to kidnapping. And this was someone who actually broke into the house.
The Charlotte 2-year-old was taken from this bedroom. The window screen pried open and tossed on the ground.
He said, man, I was in jail.
They found a shrine to John Bonet.
Police and possibly 4 others.
He had a shrine of John. Oh, okay.
Confession and crime, but the most famous case of all is John Bonet Ramsey.
Well, the police came out, and unfortunately for them, he had a rock-solid alibi for that night.
Yeah.
He worked factory, and he had clocked in.
He was on the clock.
Covered the time period in which
He was at work.
he died. But it just shows you there are people out there who are capable of this kind of crime. Look at child predators. Look at people who would be attracted to John Bonet Ramsey.
In 2002, I was contacted by someone who knew my work on the Ramsey case and wanted to talk
his email name was Dax. No idea what that means.
Yeah.
He started to email me on a regular basis, where he slowly started to say, "Will you kill John Lennon?"
So he knows.
It was always a little unclear, but it was kind of implied it was all part of a love affair. That it was an accident.
I met Michael Tracy and talked about it. I was still skeptical because there's so much information that's released casually by the police.
That's another interesting twist with this case, that people decide that they want the notoriety, so they confess. However, you still have to look into each and every one of those.
I said, how come I don't know, you just pulling this from the internet and feed me what is out there already? And he said, ask John Ramsey what Jean Monet's nickname was for Nedra, her grandmother, and it will be this. So I emailed John, what was the nickname? Comes back, Neddy. He was right, he was correct. Because John searched, there was nowhere that nickname was known in the public domain. So how did this person know? I would share some emails with Lou Smith. And I said, look, you know, I've got this from this guy. I have no idea who this guy is, where he is. He could be next door, I have no idea. And I always say to Lou, just tell me he's a nutcase and we can end it. And Lou said, can do, Michael, you've got to keep at it.
During that period, Patsy was in remission from ovarian cancer. That she'd go back every year to be checked. Well, the 8th year she went back and, there's a little cancer here. Yeah, it was devastating because we thought it was behind us.
You lost your hair? Yeah. It's growing back. My eyebrows are growing back. It all comes out, but you know what? That's very little.
When it comes back, it's more resistant to treatment. And that's kind of where Patsy was at that point. Eventually it just overwhelmed her. And it got to a point where one doctor recommended palliative care, let's just make her life comfortable. And we weren't ready to do that. I wanted to keep fighting, she wanted to keep fighting. And then it got to a point where I was convinced it was hopeless. And I made the decision to stop, at the doctor's recommendation, to stop treatment, but I didn't tell Patsy. The cancer had migrated to her brain, so she was not her normal self. So she didn't know that we'd given up. And she would ask me, when's my next treatment? And I knew in my heart there was no next treatment. That was hard.
The emails with Daxis went on for 4 years. It was still a mystery as to who he was.
He apparently disguised his email chain very well.
Then in 2006, he started asking me to get him in touch with Patsy so he could apologise for killing their daughter. was asking for contact information, and I was stalling. He said in an email, Michael, I'll be in the house before you give me that contact information, won't I? But I take this to be a possible threat.
There was now a new district attorney who had taken over the case. Michael took it to her and said, look, here's what's been going on. This person needs to be investigated.
So Mary launched the investigation to try and find this person, which involved not just her office, it involved Homeland Security, ICE. And then he asked, do you want to hear my voice? And so I said, sure. We take, I believe, 11 hours of conversation, all of which have been listened in on by various intelligence agencies. And that was a very, very dark experience.
I must admit, I was a bit surprised when you sent the phone number. You know? Why did you do that, by the way? What would you have thought? I don't know. I lost it in my senses. At what point did you decide you had to tell me that you killed her? I never had a second I had. But it's definitely implied, isn't it? I know, and I can't say that. I just can't say that word. Kill.
What he was trying to do was to say it was part of some kind of strange relationship. And he's into erotic asphyxiation.
John and I had a special experience using what I call a special necklace. And I'm always going to use that term. I'm not going to use any other term. I hate to use the term asphyxia, and I won't use it. The reason people get off on watching it is because it looks like someone who's dying. Because they lose consciousness and then they start to convulse. So it is a little erotic to watch. Like I watch her eyes close, and her body starts convulsing, her legs start to convulse. Like she's dying. She's taking a sweet slumber for just a few seconds, and she's like groggy. And she said, "What happened?" And then I told her she went into a dream state and that it was okay. And I started to kiss her on her thighs, and that was a real turning point for me because I was very close to what I'll call her sex. That was the turning point because it just made me a little bit crazy.
The worst part for me was I had to pretend it was all okay. I couldn't be judgmental.
I just kind of knelt down in front of her and I said, John, I want to make another necklace for you. And it had some interesting knots in it. So I slowly applied the pressure on her neck with that second necklace. And I said, yes, sweetheart, go into the sweet dream. At that point, her little body started to convulse and twitch a little bit. And that's when I should have stopped. And I just kept holding the pressure. But I was just in a trance. I couldn't stop looking at her face. I just couldn't stop kissing her. I was just in the throes of ecstasy with her. And then all of a sudden, my gaze just was suddenly broken. And I was just like, oh my God. Jonathan, hey, are you okay? And I knew she wasn't okay because I knew that she wasn't breathing. And I was terrified. I said, oh God, I'm going to have to do this. I know what I have to do because I can't take the chance that she'll be alive. I thought to myself, God, what if her brain is just dying and her body's still alive? I just didn't want to leave her in that state. Just leave her like that. And for some strange reason, I can't explain why. I just said to myself, oh my God, what if blood comes out of her mouth when I do this? I turn my flashlight off. There was tape wrapped around the flashlight. And I took a piece of that tape off that flashlight. And I covered her mouth with it. I was going to put the blanket over her, and I just kind of held it in place.
investigations, I went back home and I just started to sob. Even now,
I had enough mind left to know that I had to gather all my stuff. In my mind, I don't know if I gathered everything up. I don't know if I was unlearned. But I had to go back to that window. That's where I came in. That's where I had to go out. I lifted the grave. I got out of the grave. And I just felt God. I've left my little girl in that horrible state. She's in that little tiny room. And worse than that, she's dead. And God, what have I done?
when the investigation began, we had no idea who this guy was, where he was.
Law enforcement will run into the biggest brick wall when they try to trace this phone number. It leads to nobody. I am not a fool. It leads to nobody.
I can tell.
The DA's office people said, look, this
I'm already knowing. I saw it circling.
Want to talk to Patsy.
I don't think that my phone call was.
They said, let's note that.
Mason!
Patsy was in bed with cancer. She was in not shape. So they set up a phone by Patsy's bed with a tap on it. And she was prepared to talk to him.
The phone call was better than what?
Being her call. Patsy was very sick. She was in pain, very much in pain, and we knew the end was near. I was like, God, please take her. Just get her home, get her, relieve her pain. And I told Patsy, it's okay, if you go home. She did. And I went outside and just...
Wabba wabba.
I don't know. And I realized I needed to tell her. And here, poor Bert. He graduated from high school, he was in college. And to lose his mother, who loved him dearly. He was, typical kid. He loved his mom. So I woke him up. He said, it's Mom. I said, yeah. She's gone. I'm sorry.
And that's it.
Patsy Ramsey, the mother of little John Benet Ramsey, has died. She was 49 years old.
I don't know how long I'll live, but I know that when I'm absent from the body, I will be at home with the Lord. And Dominique and Beth and my mother, who has since passed away, and all the fun people are starting to be over there. So it's going to be a glorious reunion.
We've been asked. It was really too bad that Patsy passed away without knowing who killed her child. And she knows now, I believe. Well, I will see Patsy again, I have no doubt. I don't know how that's going to work or how it's going to happen or what. It's too beyond my little brain to comprehend, but I believe that that's a reality for us as humans.
This is really bad news. Patsy died.
Oh my God. wasn't possible. I believe that was the case.
Daxis knew that I had the last photo of Germany. He emailed me and said, could I scan it for him and send it to him? And it was suggested by an investigator that I could open the original. So I suggested it, and he gave us a drop box, a UPS box in Bangkok.
Providing you with an address, even though I know that the address is very far from me, it scared the hell out of me.
The UPS store was put under surveillance, and he told me about a mountain bike he bought and described it.
I'm a bicyclist. Why do you buy this bike? Because I'm going to take it to work with me. So you're going to ride it to the school? Yeah.
So he turns up on his bike, picks it up, and then he's under surveillance for about a week. I now know that person to be John Mark Carr.
I then the Bangkok authorities found out he was a child predator, and he was teaching elementary school.
In one of our phone conversations, described his classroom as one wall is all glass, sort of looking in through the glass, and there's a moment when he's got this little girl, young girl, on his lap, and a teacher comes in and he pushes her away. And that's when the site police said,
dang, you be wasting this nigga and I'm watching you sitting up there. You ain't got number one for it.
The murder of the 6-year-old beauty pageant contestant Jean-Benet Ramsey has captivated America for a decade. Now, 10 years on, a man has been arrested in Thailand.
41-year-old John Mark Khan brought into custody by Bangkok police on suspicion of premeditated murder.
That's the lady?
Have a connection with me, but it just wasn't possible. I believe that was the case.
Daxis knew that I had the last photo of Germany. He emailed me and said, could I scan it for him and send it to him? And it was suggested by an investigator that I should open the original. So I suggested it, and he gave us a drop box, a UPS box in Bangkok.
Providing you with an address, even though I know that the address is very far from me, it scared the hell out of me.
The UPS store was put under surveillance, and he told me about a mountain bike he bought and described it.
I'm a bicyclist. Why do you buy this bike? Because I'm going to take it to work with me. So you're going to ride it to the school? Yeah.
So he turns up on his bike, picks it up, and then he's under surveillance for about a week. I now know that person to be John Mark Carr.
I then the Bangkok authorities found out he was a child predator, and he was teaching elementary school.
In one of our phone conversations, described his classroom as one wall is all glass, sort of looking in through the glass. And there's a moment when he's got this little girl, young girl, on his lap, and a teacher comes in and he pushes her away. And that's when site police said, we've got to go in.
The murder of the 6-year-old beauty pageant contestant Jean-Benet Ramsey has captivated America for a decade. Now, 10 years on, a man has been arrested in Thailand.
A 41-year-old John Mark Khan brought into custody by Bangkok police on suspicion of premeditated murder.
No.
John
John Mark Carr. What was he doing in Thailand? Since Carr was arrested, new details have come to light.
He had been an elementary school teacher in a suburb of Atlanta for some time, but is no longer working there.
Carr worked as a substitute teacher at Hamilton Elementary for a few months just before John Benet's murder. He was taken off the substitute list after complaints from parents.
Inappropriate language, I won't say necessarily sexual, just things that were not normal.
He's fixated on young girls, there's no question about that. In 2001, he was arrested in Petaluma, California. He'd been working there as a teacher, and he was found with child pornography. He was charged, he was heading for trial, and he left the country and disappeared.
Years. If anyone's going to catch me there.
Since then, the 41-year-old seems to have found plenty of work abroad. In resumes posted on the internet, Carr claims to have taught in Asia, Europe, and Latin America. More chilling, Carr worked briefly as an elementary school teacher in at least 2 international schools in Bangkok, including an all-girls school.
Some legal observers are skeptical of Carr's story. They have questions like why John Carr would even leave a ransom note at the scene of Jean Benet's murder.
Yeah.
It had been my plan all along that she didn't take her. And when I first arrived, I was very confident and smug. But when you walk into the bedroom of parents, you get this feeling. It's almost like someone's watching you. The gravity of the situation starts to hit. You're like, well, how do I deal with these parents? I want to give them enough information that will allow them to know I'll bring her back. The way I would want to have written that note, which would have been very polite and kind. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, I have your lovely daughter, and I'll bring her back, but not right now. And I couldn't do that. It would have led straight to me. If I'd written it that way, it would have led the authorities straight to my door. I could have addressed that note to in any way to her mother. I could have thought of doing it in the beginning, but I've changed my mind.
A law enforcement source tells CNN that John Mark Carr was heard saying while he was in custody that he doesn't understand how people could question how he got into the Ramseys' home the night John Benet Ramsey was murdered.
Carr blurted out, quote, "Everybody says I couldn't know my way around the house, but I got in the house around 5 o'clock, and I stayed there all night. They, meaning the Ramseys, didn't come back until 10 o'clock.
Carr will be deported from Bangkok and then ultimately moved to Boulder, Colorado.
When his picture was published in the media, we had a little cottage up in northern Michigan, and we had a housekeeper who would come in and clean it periodically and check on it. And she saw the picture, called and said, that guy was in your garage last summer. 100% certain. Summer. Before John Benet was killed, he wandered into your garage, kind of a strange guy, asking questions. And so I began to think, yeah, we were being stalked.
Did the Ramseys know Carr? Did John Benet know him? We do know he was living in Atlanta, where the Ramseys were, when John Benet was born. But after that, the Ramseys moved out here to Boulder. We don't know what happened to Mr. Carr.
Once back in the West, investigators are expected to take more DNA samples from the murder suspect.
Investigators in Boulder County should already know the answer to a key question. Is there a DNA match? A match between DNA samples Carr has reportedly surrendered and the DNA taken from under the victim's fingernails and one article of clothing.
Of course, the media was like, they made an arrest, it's just amazing. And for me, it was a sobering experience in a way, because now where the media was, we had 40 cameras out in our front yard wanting comments, and I was still skeptical. It was the DNA, we had to see if there was a match. And of course, there wasn't.
Breaking news tonight, confessed killer of JonBenet Ramsey walks after no DNA match. Just in the last...
We found out that the DNA didn't match a couple of days later.
Insiders said he knew certain details about the brutal crime only the killer could know, but officials at the Denver Crime Lab say DNA proves he was not at the scene that dreadful December night.
And John Mark Carr was released.
John Mark Carr is a very strange guy, but until we have a DNA match, we don't know who the killer is.
The DNA didn't match, allegedly. Well, I think there's a problem with the DNA.
The DNA in this case has been problematic from the beginning. Many experts have told me, and this goes back to the contamination of the crime scene.
The Boulder Police Department made a lot of mistakes early on in this case. I was always convinced that may have made an important difference in issues of contamination.
And the crime scene, particularly one as contaminated as this, is problematic, I think, to take too much to the bank based on any one DNA result.
What does that mean in terms of everyone who's given a DNA sample? I think if the DNA is faulty, a lot of people will still be a suspect.
We've been in the practice of ruling people out based on DNA. And if we take what the police have said at face value, and the reporting done by guys like Charlie Brin, who say that the DNA in the case isn't as valuable or significant as we think, then we've been ruling people out for the wrong reasons, right? Everybody should be back on the table. The police have never ruled out John Ramsey based solely on this DNA. How do you rule anybody out based solely on this DNA? You have to go deeper. You have to sort the DNA we have today and make more sense of it.
The family of JonBenet Ramsey is petitioning Governor Jared Polis to take new action to help find answers in the case that has gone unsolved for more than 25 years.
What we're advocating for, and we've been doing so for the last year or so, aggressively, is we know there's 5 or 6 items that were taken from the crime scene, sent into a lab for DNA sampling, and were not sampled. So we want those items sampled. We want the items that have been sampled and tested to be retested. And then use the public genealogy database to look for not only a match, but a similar relative. And that's been used very successfully in the last, 3 or 4 years by police departments to find the killer of very old cold cases.